Hi, and welcome to the Jam Gamecast. My name's Matt, and I'm your host. Tonight I'm here with my brother Jim. What's up, Jim?
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
And tonight we have a special guest star tonight on our podcast. We have Mr. BioPhoenix tonight. What's up, Bio?
Hello, everyone. This is BioPhoenix here, and today we are on the Jam Gamecast.
All right. Well, so like Chris said, this is the Jam Gamecast. Tonight we're going to be talking about our favorite JRPGs slash RPGs, our top five favorites. We're each going to list our top fives. We're going to go down the list, starting with our number five games. So, Chris, since you're our guest tonight, why don't you start? What's your number five JRPG or RPG?
Oh, with pleasure. So the first one I'm going to mention right now, and just keep in mind, this opinion of mine could change over time, or my list could change over time. But as of right now, I'm feeling that my number five will be The Legend of Heroes: Trails of Cold Steel, preferably number two, but number one is also just as good. So yeah, that'd be my pick. And
Okay.
have you guys played that one?
Yeah, I've played the first one. I haven't gotten to the second one yet. But the first one's gonna appear on my list as well. Um, so yeah, so what is there big differences between the two games? Anything that's different? Anything that you noticed?
Graphics are the same. The music is just about the same, although there is a few newer tracks that they did make into it, which is nice. The story is still just as good as it was from the first one. You know, with a lot of like really interesting plot twists, still more like character development and all that kind of good stuff. The battle system does have some newer features into it. Like there's you know how in the first one like you got a lot of like combo links with like between like your other characters. This one has like that, but they made like a bit more like how do I explain, like they have like another gauge that that also fills up as you're like fighting, and you can do like more like attacks, like an all-out attack sort of thing, which you know is really great. And the exploration is still the same, but this one actually has more freedom. Like you're not like stuck with a school schedule or anything like that. Like there's like you can go to more places, and you know, and you can actually go back to them if you are like missing like, you know, like a treasure chest or something like that, which is really good. Which I like that a lot.
Okay, yeah. That's one thing in the first game that I think that I enjoyed so much about the first game was the school setting. Are you still on the school in the second one, or are you not in the school? Is there some things that happened in the first one that might lead you to think that you're not going to be at school anymore? But where are you at school at all in the second one?
No, you're actually like all like you and your party members are like scattered throughout in like the area doing their own thing, and then you like when you meet up with them, and then you know you want to like try to get like the school back because the well, I don't know how to explain this without giving away too much spoilers, but basically, you kind of have to like try to get like your school like back into like from like the enemy because you know stuff. But
Right, right.
yeah, it's definitely one that is worth playing though. Like if you played the first, the second one is definitely a must for sure.
Now, because this was something I heard from a lot of people who played the first game. They played the first game, and then there was like a big wait in between the first game and second game. I played the first one, and then I think like the second one came out a couple weeks later. Did you have a big wait in between the games, or did you play the second one right away after the first one, or?
I beat the first one. I think it was at the beginning of the summer, and then I remember number two came out in September. So I had to wait
Right, right.
like a couple months, but it wasn't too long, and I thought it was pretty perfect for me there. But yeah, it was a good long wait though. But now I have to wait for part three, which is going to be on PS4, which I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I keep seeing screenshots of Reen and the main cast from the first game, but also some other characters that I have no idea who they are. But yeah, the game definitely looks cool, and I'm a little disappointed that it's not going to be on the Vita because I love my Vita, but I guess the graphical increase will be a lot. It'll be appreciated.
Oh yeah, in fact, I actually have the first two games on the Vita as well because I don't know, I just like playing them on the handheld, and they do look really good on there too. So yeah, but yeah, that would be my number 5 pick is Legend of Heroes Part 2. Although Part 1 is like not that far off.
Okay, all right. All right, well that's a good pick. So now we'll move on to you, Jim. What is your number 5 pick, JRPG or RPG?
Okay, my number 5 pick would probably have to be Fallout 4. It's an action RPG, which is kind of been my niche in this portion. I guess in this genre, I really like the way that everything flows with those type of games. And Fallout 4 was a long wait for it to come out, but when it finally came out, I believe that it delivered. Um, had one of the things that I really like in a lot of RPGs now, which is your choices in game kind of have consequences, and they play out into how the game is going to end. With the number of factions that you can decide to either join or go ahead and destroy.
Okay, yeah, and I've never played the Fallout series, and I haven't played any of the games. But from what I understand, it's more like it's an RPG, but there's a lot of like open world features to it, and a lot of different things you can do. You're not necessarily pigeonholed into certain things. Is that a right assessment?
Oh yeah, that would be the correct assessment. Have like your quests that kind of show up in the I believe it's the top right hand corner. It'll tell you what you're doing now because you have the main quest, and then you could have any number of side quests going on at that time. Or you could just be into kind of just exploring and just going around seeing what you can find. One thing that I really like in the Fallout games is the location finder. So if you come up to a building or there's maybe any specific location, you'll kind of get like a almost like a cash register sound, and it'll say like, oh, you discovered this location and it's called this, and that's actually now a location on your map that you can use to fast travel in, which is another aspect of the Fallout games that I really started to enjoy was the being able to fast travel back to my home base and kind of unload some of the valuable loot that I picked up and then go back to where I just was.
Okay. Chris, do you have any experience with the Fallout series?
Yeah, like I haven't played 4, but I do own 3 on PS3, and from what I've played of it, I put in a pretty decent amount of time into it. I do really like it. I like the fact that it's like a first person like shooter with RPG elements and something that you don't see too often. And I think that one did do it pretty well. The story was really interesting, although I didn't really like the ending to it much. But other than that, though, I thought like a lot of the quests in that one were pretty cool. A lot of different like random equipment that you can find, all that kind of stuff. Exploring is definitely like a big part of it. And I have watched a friend of mine play the first 2 on PC, which kind of played a little bit more like Diablo, and those ones actually look pretty cool too. I just haven't played them, but they're the ones that were a lot different than like the ones that we have now.
Yeah, I would say I've seen the same thing with the first 2 Fallout games. They're more kind of like the dungeon crawl, and then Fallout 3 introduced you into the action RPG genre. Allowing you to run around and just kind of dodge, and instead of taking an opponent head on, you can stay away from a distance and snipe them. But the first 2 games in the Fallout series are still on some of the top 10 or top 100 hot lists for PC games of all time from what I've seen.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
they do look like really good ones.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised, Jim. You mentioned the lists and stuff. I knew this was going to be on your list, but I would have thought that this would have been higher up on your list.
Well, I mean, there are 3 Fallout games that have come out on the next gen consoles. Starting with PS3 and Xbox 360. So little further up the list, we might see another one of the other two.
Okay, I see. I see where you're going. All right. Well, we'll move on, and now we'll move on to my number five RPG slash JRPG, and I actually keep a list of my top 10 RPGs, so I was quite prepared for the podcast before we even decided to do it or anything like that. So I already knew what my top five would be. So coming in at number five, I have Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic Part Two: The Sith Lords. Have either one of you played this game?
No,
I have like years ago.
Okay.
this is a game that's on my list, and I'll see what you have to say about it. But I think it might be for some of the same reasons I want to play it.
Yeah, well, I'll start it off by saying I never played the first one. So who knows? If I played the first one, I might think that that's way better than the second one. But I never played the first one. I played only the second one. And I like it because number one, I'm a big Star Wars fan. So anything in the Star Wars universe, I'm interested in. And number two, I just like the system. Now I'll say that this was probably the first Western RPG that I really played. Before this, I really only mainly played JRPGs. This was the first one I guess you could categorize into the Western RPG category. But I really liked it. I thought that they developed the world really well. Now, I mean, of course, being Star Wars, you already have a great world to build off of, but I think that the little part of the universe and section that they built into was really cool. And now, of course, the games take place way before any of the movies take place. And I like the option that you could decide to be either like a good guy or bad guy, essentially, for lack of a better term. You could essentially be like a Jedi, or you could kind of go with the dark side and move more towards being a Sith. And I thought that was really interesting, and it was cool to kind of see the backstory and lore of the Star Wars universe and the Sith and Jedi, and kind of see where a lot of that stuff started from. So
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Being able to, which is being able to choose between the light and the dark side, which is a thing in games that I really love. I love being able to make my own choices and have a different outcome depending on what I choose. I haven't really been a fan of too many games where it's just kind of like this: you're the good guy and you have to do this.
Yeah. Now, Chris, what were your impressions of the game when you played it?
Oh man, it's been years since I played it. In fact, I remember me and a friend of mine were always trying like our hardest to install the game on my old ass computer, but eventually we did get it to work. And when I did finally play it, it's a pretty good game from what I remember. Like, I don't remember the story too well, but I do remember like the action in it was pretty good. It's it's a BioWare game, so if you've played games like Dragon Age, it's a lot like that, where you have like a lot of like dialogue that can
Kind of like choose from different options and stuff, and a lot of options too.
oh yeah, like there's a lot of different like dialogues that branch out, and it does make like different choices and stuff, which is interesting. But yeah, like I said, I have to actually like replay it again at some point. But I do remember it being a really good one though, and like you, I haven't played the first one either.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll admit too, it's been probably over 10 years. I think I played this game back in like 2006. So it's been over 10 years since I played this game. So I'm kind of a little fuzzy on the story as well. But I just remember some of the key aspects I talked about, and you bring up a good point about the the dialogue. I think it's really one of the first times I remember getting a lot of options when it comes to dialogue. Like there'd be like 5 or 6 options of different things you could choose, and in other RPGs, I was only ever really like used to like 1 or 2 options of what you could choose to say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I didn't mention in the first one, I love, and it might be, it's kind of nerdy, but you know, this is a video game podcast, so I really loved the building of your lightsaber and getting the different colored crystals and the different pieces and stuff. I thought that that was so cool as well.
Yeah, I think a friend of mine actually made the black lightsaber. I think it was, which apparently it takes like a lot of different stuff to do it or something.
Oh wow. Yeah, I remember. I think mine was like reddish orange or something like that. I don't know. I think I when I did play, I kind of was more towards the dark side, but I don't know. I wasn't like full out like bad guy. I guess I was just kind of like more of like an anti-hero, I guess you could say, when I played. All
Oh
right.
yeah, that's cool.
All right, so that was my number 5 game. So we're gonna move on to number 4 games. Chris, what's your number 4 RPG or JRPG?
My number four as of right now is the East series, which is it's spelled out as YS, but it's pronounced East. Another Neon Falcon game, go figure. But yeah, the reason why I really like this series is because it's basically like a top-down Zelda game, but it has like metal music, and it also has like a lot of like RPG elements more so than Zelda because it has um like not only does your character level up, but also your weapons and your armor like can level up as well, and it's just for a really good time. It's sort of like a Zelda clone, but like has like a lot of like really cool elements to it. But I think this one was just a really well done game. But if
Okay.
I had to pick like my favorite one in that series, I'd probably say either the remake of 3, which is called Oath of Felghana, or E6, which is Arcana Piston on PS2.
Okay. Yeah, I've played the remakes on the PSP of 1 and 2. I think they're called Yeez 1 and 2 Chronicles or something like that. I played
Yes.
I played those games. I really enjoy them. And in fact, if this countdown was stretched to our top 10, you'd probably be hearing me talk about some Yeez games as well. But I've never played Oath of Felghana. I'm having the hardest time trying to get that for a decent price. I find that I can never find it for a decent price. It's always like 30 to 40 bucks on the PSP.
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of the PSP ones are hard to find. Like, well, then again, with me personally, I don't really buy a lot of PSP games, so I just stick to like any other format really. But yeah, though, like Oath of Felghana though is a really cool one though, and like you said, Boku's 1 and 2 is also a fantastic entry as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the games, and you touched upon it. And people always talk about this when they talk about the Yeast series, but the music, people love the music in these games. And like you said, it's like really upbeat metal type of music, and it is really good, and it fits the series really well.
Oh yeah, I forget who did the composer for that for the music in those games. Unfortunately, I can't remember, but I know he's done like a ton of other really good stuff too. But yeah, that it's definitely worth note that the series like always had like fantastic music throughout.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. We're gonna get the new release soon. Ys 8. I think it's coming. I know it's on PS4, but I think it's might be coming out on the Vita as well.
Yep, it's coming out on both, and I'm not sure which version I want to get because at the same time I want to get it on the Vita because I have the fourth one on the Vita as well. But at the same time, we never had a Ys game on a console in like many years, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, probably if you don't count the PSP or Vita, I guess Turbo Graphics maybe the. I think they came out with books 1 and 2 on the CD, the Turbo CD. But since then, yeah, I don't know of any.
Yeah, well, I know in Japan they did have like a different set of remakes on PS2, but only in Japan, of
Oh yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah. You're
It's
right.
like, ah,
And then, of course, I completely forgot too. You mentioned earlier, Napish Tim is on the PS2 as well, and also the Vita. But or no, I'm sorry, the PSP. But here the PSP version is not good.
I've never played the PSP version, but I've heard that like it has like a lot of like really bad load times.
Yeah,
So if you're gonna stick with that one, I'd say either get it on Steam or get it on PS2. But getting it on PS2 is really hard to come by though. But it's surprisingly not too expensive. It's just one of those games that like you just barely ever see around.
yeah. And I actually think I'm the opposite. I've seen it more for PS2, and I've only ever seen it once in a retro store on the PSP. But they didn't have the. It was just like a homemade photocopy cover and stuff like that. So I didn't end up buying it. But yeah, I've seen it more on the PS2 than I have the PSP actually.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, yeah, but that's definitely one I want to try. Well, I want to play them all eventually. I even actually have the fourth game. I have a repro on the Super Nintendo that I got. There's actually two fours released. I think one was on the Turbo Graphics. I'm thinking, and then the other one was on the Super Famicom. Never came out in the States, but I got the repro version in English of the fourth game, which of course was remade into Celceta on the Vita. So I don't know which one I want to play first though. If I should play the Super Nintendo version or play Celceta first.
Yeah, I actually have that reproduction card as well, oddly enough, and yeah, they're both very different for what they are. The original one actually plays more like a traditional Ys game, where you're not like swinging your sword freely; you're just bumping into enemies. And I know some people like don't like that format as much. Some people like it better. It all depends. I personally like this actually being able to swing your sword better, but the bumping mechanic one is pretty interesting though. But that one, I'd say play the original version first, just for a bit, just to see how you like it, and if you do end up completing it, or I don't know if you don't like it as much, then I'd say go for the remake one.
Yeah, I think I was thinking the same thing. I probably try the Super Nintendo one first, and then play the remake on the Vita. But the only reason I've been putting those games off is because I want to try to play them in order. And I played the first two, and I want to play Oath of Felghana, but I just haven't been able to get it for a decent price yet. And of course, as I stated before on the podcast, I'm cheap when it comes to video games, so I want to get it for a good price.
Oh yeah, it's totally understandable for sure.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm glad you brought up the bumping mechanic, because I think that's something when you talk about Ys, I think that's you have to talk about the bumping mechanic in the original games. And like you said, some people don't like it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was something different, something cool. It's the first time I ever played a game that was like that, where you just kind of run into the enemy and that's how you fight. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's essentially Highlight if it was good.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, that was
But yeah, that's not back.
yeah. I was just gonna say that's a nice little discussion on the E series. I'm glad that you brought that up, because, like I said, none of those games appear in my top five. So I'm glad we were able to talk about the series. All right, well, we'll move on now. Move over to Jim. Jim, what's your number 4 favorite JRPG or RPG?
My number 4 would have to be Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Interesting
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, I mean it's a game that I will admit took me quite a while to beat.
Yeah,
I think it took me a few months because I just kind of trailed off and got a little bored with playing it, but I always had to go back and finish it. I really enjoyed the story elements. Had been introduced to a couple of the characters, before actually playing the game, and I do remember watching you play a little bit of the game and thinking that Blitzball was probably the coolest sport ever invented until I actually had to play it in the game.
yeah, that's impossible to play in that game.
Oh yeah, that's what I was like. I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. But then I get in there, I'm just like, this is terrible.
Yeah, I remember for the first like game that you get to play, I was like all psyched up to play because you're Titus and you come from like the what is it, the future you come from, and like
Yeah, you're like a superstar in the
yeah,
future.
you're like a superstar in the game, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna destroy these guys, and then you get in, and I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing, and it's
Yeah,
super hard to play, at least for me.
yeah, and I mean, one thing that I really liked about the game was the in-game cinematics that I had because I played the PlayStation 4 remastered version, and I'm always a huge fan of Square's cinematics that they come up with. I think they're like some of the best cinematics I've ever seen. They're so crisp, so beautiful.
I agree.
Yeah. Square always is pushing the envelope, and when it comes to graphics, they're always at the forefront. But I know that the game, I enjoyed the game. Again, if this was extended to a top 10, this game would probably feature on my list as well. But it's not going to be in my top 5. But the game gets a lot of hate sometimes, and there's one scene in particular that people always talk about. In Bio, you might know where I'm going with this, but it's the laughing scene where they're just standing, they're like looking over the cliff or something like that, and they're just like, you just have to laugh, and they're just like, ah ha 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 ha, and
Oh
yeah,
my god.
and like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that I was just like I didn't know what happened with the voice acting in that. I was just like that's probably one of the worst scenes I've ever seen in a game.
yeah, people
Yeah, it's pretty cringe.
Yeah, people always cut up the voice acting on that. I mean, besides for the laughing scene, I don't remember thinking it was like too awful. I wouldn't say that it was the best ever, but the laughing scene is pretty bad. I'll admit that, but I don't remember thinking that it was too awful that I couldn't get through the game or anything. And but yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, sorry. I was gonna say, yeah, for sure. It's definitely not the worst. I mean, I've heard like a lot of like really bad voice acting, but but yeah, it's definitely not the worst. But it definitely has moments where it's kind of like, hey, like what the hell is this? But then it like has its moments where it's actually kind of decent. But I don't know. It's very mixed, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. I think, like you said, there's definitely a mix of it. Some parts are really good. I thought, and I mean, my favorite character in the game, and I thought this voice acting was good, but I thought Aaron was really good in that game. He's a cool, badass character, and I thought his voice actor was pretty good.
Yeah, he
Yeah, I
was
would
the
say
best.
yeah, I'd say Orin was probably my favorite, and then I actually kind of liked Waka because I liked the way that they did his combat with the Blitzball as his main weapon.
Yeah, Waka's a cool character too. I don't remember disliking any of the characters really. Although I will admit it's been a very long time since I played that game as well. But yeah, the Waka's cool, but I think Auron is definitely by far the coolest character in that game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to add on Final Fantasy X?
I definitely do think it is a really good entry into the series. Like, I really do like the way that they did the turn-based combat, like the fact you can actually like switch out your characters mid-battle. I thought that was a nice touch, and I did find the story was kind of weird at times, but other than that, though, like graphics were really good for the time. The music was spot on. Battle system's fun, and I think it was a really good entry. Not, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I would say that it is like a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would have to agree about the battle system. Especially when I was near the end of the game and I had to train up like all of my characters. I like the fact that you could pretty much be in one fight and have. I think there was like what six total party members that you could rotate in and out. I always liked utilizing that as much as possible.
Oh yeah, it's hopefully the end too, because that last boss takes forever.
Oh yeah, totally.
yeah, I remember having to grind for a while to build myself up to be able to beat that game. But you bring up a good point, Chris, about the battle system, about being able to switch characters in and out. That's probably one of the first games I remember that where you could actually do that. And it's an interesting mechanic, and it's not something, like I said, you really saw prior to that. Uh, so yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's not something, and even now you don't really see that a whole lot now, where you can switch characters in and out as you're in when you're in the middle of a battle.
Yeah, there's only like a couple, but yeah. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. That it is definitely a good one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that game. I know it gets a lot of hate for voice acting and stuff, but it's a good game. I like that game. All right, we'll move on now to my number four game. Now, some people, I don't know, some people might not consider this series uh, RPG. I definitely group it in with RPGs, though. And if it is it would be considered a Western RPG. But I would say my number four game is going to be Fable 2. Um, I really enjoy the world setting in that game. I like the first one too, but I think that the second one really expanded on the first game and really kind of made what they came up with in the first one a lot better. I like being able to walk around the world. You kind of weren't really set in a particular path. You could kind of do things at your own pace and do whatever you wanted whenever you wanted. And I liked, kind of being able to create the look of the character and the different armors, and I like the animation style in it too. It's kind of more cartoony, which might turn some people off, but I actually kind of like that style, which is probably why I gravitate more towards JRPGs. But yeah, I really enjoyed Fable 2. I haven't played Fable 3, but out of 1 and 2, I prefer 2. And I put that at my number 4 on the list. Are either one. Well, Jim, I know you played the game. How about you, Chris? Are you familiar with the Fable 2 or the series?
I have the first one on the original Xbox, and I actually really liked it when I first played it. But I find it is one of those games where, like, if you play it a second time, it's like it's not bad. It's not the same. But that's for the second one though. That one I do think like you said, it's definitely a good improvement upon it. I really like a lot of the side quests that they added into it. In fact, I really like that one where it was like where you get like teleported inside like a D&D game. I thought that was a really cool one. But um I remember there was one thing about number two I didn't like as much, but I can't remember what it was because it has been a while. In fact, I don't even own the game. I've only played it at like a friend's place. But either way, though, I do think Fable 2 is definitely really good, and also I will say that I do like it better than 3.
Okay, now would you agree with me? Would you group the series in with RPGs, or you think it's not an RPG, or?
I'd say it is. I mean, you get to choose like, which path you want to go to, and then, like you do like level up in a sense, and so yeah, I'd say that, like it is like an RPG in a sense, yeah.
Yeah, and that's because I usually watch a lot of stuff or listen to a lot of stuff about RPGs and JRPGs and stuff, and I never hear anyone talk about this series. I only heard one other podcast one time sort of mention this in a JRPG podcast, but other than that, like, you never really hear people talk about the Fable series when it comes to RPGs.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that surprises me. I really enjoyed playing both Fable games, and I kind of liked, in how the second one expanded on, what you could do in the world. Like, you could buy houses and like a farm or something like that. And I liked how the physicality of your character changed based on your good or I guess I would say evil choices within the game.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up and a good feature to mention as well. If you were more on the evil side, you would obviously you start to look evil. You might start growing horns out of your head, or your eyes turn red, or something like that. But yeah, it's a good point to mention about the game. That's a good aspect. They kind of do that in Knights of the Old Republic as well. Depending if you're more towards the light side or dark side, your features change accordingly. All right, so yeah, number 4 on my list, Fable 2. So now we'll move on to our number 3 games. Chris, we'll move on to you. What's your number 3 RPG or JRPG?
All right, so my number three as of right now that I'm thinking about is Shadow Hearts, or more specifically, Shadow Hearts Covenant on the PS2.
Okay. Now I don't have any experience with these games at all. I know you just on your YouTube channel you just posted a playthrough or a review of one of these titles, right?
All right, so I did a review on all three games on PS2, but then I also did a live stream where I was streaming through the first game, and that was actually a lot of fun. But anyways, so to talk about like the actual game itself, it's a really like it is a pretty obscure RPG, but it does have like a cult following, which is why it's kind of gotten a bit more popularity over time since it came out. But anyways, though, so basically, it's a really dark and gritty RPG. I'd actually say it has a lot of elements of survival horror, which is really interesting because. Like in the first game, for an example, it has a lot of those pre-rendered backgrounds, much like in games like Resident Evil or Silent Hill or even Parasite Eve. So that's pretty awesome, and then has like a lot of creepy atmospheric music, and then also has like a lot of like really good sounding tunes, and has like a really interesting battle system where it's turn based. But when you go into a fight with like as soon as you're about to attack like an enemy, like a ring shows up and it goes like around like a radar. Then you gotta like time your attacks right, kind of sort of like Legend of Dragoon. So it has a really unique concepts into it, which make it like really awesome. And of course, like the story in general is like really dark and depressing, but also has like some really good character development, good moments, and man, I gush about the series like all the damn time. Like I try to talk about it as much as I can because it's a series that I think is definitely worth playing, not only to RPG fans but also to like horror fans at the same time. So yeah, like I said, I did an entire review on it. So
Okay, yeah, I'll have to go back and check out your reviews on it because I don't really even know much about the games. Are all there? You said there's 3 of them, right?
yeah, so the first one is just called Shadow Hearts, and then the second one is called Shadow Hearts Covenant, and then the third one, which is really weird, is called From the New World, and that one is like really odd because like it's not as dark, and they kind of made it a bit more goofier, which is kind of entertaining, but at the same time, it's just not the same. But it's not a bad game though. It's just they really changed a lot of the direction to it though, and sadly, it kind of killed the series, but. Anyways, though, yeah, my review I did on the first two games is all in one, and it's like 40 minutes long. So it is a long video, but yeah, all I have to say though is that they're definitely fantastic games. Like goddamn.
Now, are there all three of them are on PS2?
Yes.
Okay, and are they all separate games, or is it one continuous story, or they
Um.
loosely a continuous
Okay.
story,
So
or?
the first two are connected to each other. In fact, weird thing is that the second game actually takes place after the bad ending of the first game, which is something you don't see too often because usually whenever a game is connected, they usually go after like the good ending of a game. But this one, it's the opposite, which is really interesting. And then the third game is like it is connected in a sense, but not really. Like you can play the third game without playing any of the other ones, since it doesn't really have a whole lot of similar. Like it has like some small references, but not a lot.
Okay.
But one and two though are definitely like bread and butter though.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Okay, cool.
Jim, are you familiar with this series at all?
No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with the series. I'm actually just enthralled by hearing you two discuss some of these games I'm not too familiar with.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I know of the series, but I'm not really 100% familiar with it. Like I pretty much know of it by name only and what it is. I think maybe a reason why I haven't looked too much into this series is probably because, like you said, there's some horror aspects to it, right?
Oh yeah.
See, I'm not really like I really enjoyed the original Resident Evil, but other than that, I'm not really too into the horror genre. Uh,
Oh yeah.
so that might be why I've never checked it out really, but I'm definitely gonna go back and look at your reviews and maybe see if I'll enjoy the games or not.
Yeah, no, it's totally understandable. But usually, what I mean by horror, I mean like has like a really dark setting of the game. Like I'll tell you this: there's no jump scares or anything like that. It's just like a
Okay.
really like dark toned game.
Okay.
Like that. I guess that's the closest thing I can say. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
like I also sorry.
No, I was just
Um,
gonna say that might be more enjoyable as opposed to the jump scares or anything like that.
yeah, no, it doesn't have anything like that. I just mean like the setting of the game is like a horror setting because it takes place in like just before World War I, and there's like demons and monsters and lots of blood and gore and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, sounds like an interesting game. It kind of, as you're talking about it now, this might be a completely random comparison, but is it kind of, as you're talking about it, it kind of reminds me of maybe Folklore a little bit on the PS3.
I've never played that, but I always wanted to. And from what I remember hearing about that game, it has some similarities of it with like the dark tone of it and like the setting of the game looks very similar to that. But otherwise, I can't really make a comment about it. But I know that's a game I really do want to check out, though.
Okay. Yeah, I own that one, and I've played a little bit of it, but I haven't really jumped that deep into it, you know. All right.
Oh yeah.
Now we'll move on to Jim and your third pick. What's your number three pick, Jim?
Okay, for number three, I have a game on here that some people out there might not agree with me that this is actually an RPG, but it styles itself as an RPG and it's labeled as an RPG. This will be the original games in the series, Pokemon Blue/Red, because they're basically the same game. This is a game where you start out, collect, I guess, what would be considered followers in other games, in the Pokemon. And you go take on other people that, can jump out at you and you have to battle them.
Yeah, I'll just say that this Pokemon is most definitely a JRPG.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's not something I'm really into, but it's definitely a JRPG, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I bring up Red and Blue because they're the original releases in North America, and they're actually games I've been playing for about 20 years. Since they first came out. I mean, I think I got them right when they came out. And sometimes I still pop them into my Game Boy and play them whenever I'm bored.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and I think I remember when the first, well, at least when the show came out, I guess in the US, and it's probably, I guess, around the same time the games came out. I was like a freshman in high school, and I was like about 15 years old, and I remember, and it was your copy of it, Jim, but I played, I guess, what did we have? Blue, I think we had, and I remember
We
playing
have
it.
both of them, I think.
Oh, really? I only ever remember having
Yeah.
Blue, but I played it, and I got up to like the Great Four or whatever it is you call it, and I couldn't beat them, and then I remember just kind of giving up on it.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I think Pokemon Red/Blue, probably the more difficult games in the series than the other generation that I played. It might have been just because I started playing them when I was so young and not really used to playing games. But I still think that those games are probably the most difficult in the series.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, when I play them now, I know all the tips and tricks. I can get through them pretty quickly, but comparatively, I think that those games were a little bit more difficult with leveling your Pokemon up as opposed to the current generations that have come out recently.
Okay. We're getting some echo on your end, Jim, I think.
On my end,
Yeah.
Sounds fun on my end.
Okay, it might just be on my end. But but anyway, yeah, the the Pokemon games, like I said, most definitely JRPGs, and I haven't played any of the newer games or anything like that, but I don't know. Do they hold up well, Jim? Are they better now than they were then, or?
well, I mean, I would say that the graphics are definitely a lot better. I mean, the current games have been in like 3D. But I mean, I would say that there's a lot more. They're definitely geared towards kids a lot more nowadays with some of the stuff that you do in the games, and I would say some of the messages of the game. But I mean, that's understandable because the target audience is kids that are about 10 or so years old. But I mean, I felt like in Pokemon Red, you're just basically like, hey, you want to battle? All right, let's get to it. Let's get to it.
Yeah,
And
I recently
I think
saw
there's
that meme. I think it was you that maybe posted it, Jim, where it was like Pokemon players when they were kids were like, "Oh yeah, let's battle. I got a Charmander," And then they're like, now it's like,
yeah.
"Hey, I got a Charmander." It's like, "Oh, well, is it a legendary? Is it a crystal?" And of course, I have no idea what this means, but that was the meme
Yeah, I
anyway.
mean, in the games now, they're more into like breeding, like the breeding of Pokemon, which is, I guess, if you're into that type of thing, it's interesting. But if you breed Pokemon a certain way, you know, better stats by like a certain margin, which is not really my style of play. I just want to have the most powerful Pokemon and just overpower somebody. But it's more, there's more strategy in battling nowadays.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Bio, are you familiar with the Pokemon series at all, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. In fact, I used to play the hell out of Pokemon Crystal like way back, and yeah, like I found like they're really good. Like how do I word it? Like they're really good beginner RPGs, and what I mean by that, I mean like they're easy to get into. like the stories are usually like very simple, easy to understand. It's not like complicated or anything like that. And the battle system is also it's just a very simple series that's easy for like any person to get into. So I do like it for that, and I do like the whole like monster capture thing, and then you train them and all that. I think that's a lot of fun, but I think as of right now, like I'm kind of burnt out on Pokemon because I used to play them like so much that I kind of just want to just take a break from it. But yeah, they are good series for what they are. But I just kind of like lost a bit of touch about it like over the years. But the last one I played was Pokemon X, and it's good. It's a good game, but I just kind of had hard time trying to finish it there because I was just focused on so many other different games at the time. But yeah, no, I do like the old Pokemon stuff, and even the newer ones are good. But I'm just not like it's not my most favorite series ever anymore.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point about the series is that it's a good entry level JRPG for people, and it's something good for younger kids to pick up and kind of get into the JRPG genre. And I think that's a good thing for the genre.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably one of the reasons why I like the series so much. It's just kind of, not anything that you really have to think about. You can just go through the motions and pass the time playing it if you so need to.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I know I want to maybe try to get into some of the newer games if I could find them for a good price. Like if I could get them for like maybe $5 or something like that, I would play X or Y or Sun and Moon or something like that. But I don't want to pay like $30+ for those games.
Yeah, Nintendo games don't drop in price, unfortunately. At least
Yeah,
Yeah,
most of them.
that's something that I always found surprising. That I think I got like Pokemon X or Y, whichever one I have. Like I think it was out for like maybe like a good 6 months, and it was still the same price as when it came out. It didn't drop at all.
Yeah, a lot of Nintendo IPs are like that. It's kind of weird.
yeah, it's a good point. Those games don't tend to go down in price. They usually maybe a little bit, but not really a whole lot. That's I'm always, but you always see them though. That's the thing. You always see them for sale everywhere you go.
Yeah, it's just how Nintendo does business, I guess. I don't know. Well, either way, though, they are a very successful series for a reason, and I don't know. Do you think they're gonna make a Pokemon game on the Switch?
That's what I'm hoping for.
I think they're gonna have to. Like, I think the 3DS only has maybe like another year left in it, and then I think after that, it's just gonna be the Switch. So if you're gonna make new Pokemon games, that's gonna be your only option.
Yeah, I would like them to. I would like to see them make a longer Pokemon game for the Switch. I think most of the games you can probably get through in about a week if you play it religiously.
Oh
How
yeah.
how long are those games like hour wise? Would you say?
Um, I don't know. I would say maybe 50 hours, maybe a little bit more.
Well,
I mean,
It depends how you play it, yeah, but typically it's maybe about like just to beat like if you're just talking about like beating the story, it's probably about like 40, 50 hours or so.
see,
yeah, and then there's sometimes there's a little bit extra like post like Elite Four like side quests, but I mean they don't really add too much more to the game, and then like Chris said, it depends on how you play it if you choose to fill the Pokedex or not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean nowadays there's like what I think close to 900 or 1,000 Pokemon or something like that. So filling the Pokedex is probably going to be a tall order.
Yeah, so if they make one on the Switch, oh my god, they gotta make like some huge thing. That'd be great though.
Yeah, I mean I was thinking about it. If they made one for the Switch, I would like them to make it where like you start like back, at the beginning. I think it's like Pallet Town or something like that, where the anime starts out.
Yeah,
And,
Johto League.
yeah, go through all the like all the current like leagues that they have. Like I think that'd probably be like for me. I would definitely go out and buy that game right away. So that's the thing that I always don't like. It's like, okay, you're done in this region now. You can't really go anywhere else, even though you know that there's other regions because of the other games. I think it'd be cool to travel on and keep playing.
Yeah, that actually might be something that might actually get me back into the series if they did something like that.
Yeah, I know that was kind of what they did in gold, silver, and crystal. You could go from Johto to the original region.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the reasons why that was like one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that I played my Pokemon Gold so much that the cartridge was broken and no longer holds a save.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that kind of sucks with a lot of those like Game Boy Advance RPGs is that like the save battery will die, even though it is easy to replace. But you just gotta have the right tools and such. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you guys were talking about the length of it. To me, a 50-hour game that's a long game to me. Like, I guess maybe I'm old school, and I like when my games are maybe closer to like 20 hours. Like right now, for example, I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles, and like I'm at like 51 hours, and I know that people say this game maybe goes to about like 60 hours, and I'm just like, I can't wait for this game to be done. Like, this is way too long.
Yeah, that game is long.
But and then it's other games though, like Trails of Cold Steel. I maybe put like 70 hours in that game, but it didn't seem long to me.
Oh yeah, that was about the same time when I beat the first one.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just more old school. I like the old school RPGs. Is like 20 hours, 25 hours. That's the perfect length for me.
All right.
All right. Well, a lot of that Pokemon stuff was over my head, but we'll move on now to. I guess we're up to my number 3 now. And my number 3 game is Lunar Silver Star Story, I played it on the PSP, so I played the Silver Star Harmony version of the game. But I absolutely love this game. I thought that this game was awesome, and I still remember the moment when like I realized I'm like, wow, this is a great game, and this is gonna be an awesome game. There's one part where you're kind of like you're Alex, the main character, and you're like shipping off to like a different area of the world, and Luna is who's like you grew up with her family kind of takes you in, and she's standing on the dock, and you just feel so sad that they're like leaving each other, and then all of a sudden they're just like, no, wait, I'm coming with you, and you're just like, yeah, go with them. And that was, it might sound cheesy, but it was like at that moment that I was like, wow, that was really, I really feel connected to these characters, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
Oh yeah, no, I freaking love Lunar.
Yeah, it's definitely a good game and a great series, although I haven't played the second game yet.
All right, well, it'll be something I'm going to elaborate more on much later on. But from what I played of the first Lunar, though, it's definitely a fantastic game. Like, good old lighthearted adventure. I can't go wrong there.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely old school JRPG, has all the tropes, but of course at that time they weren't tropes. Uh, it's one of the original really good JRPGs that kind of helped create the whole trope thing, like, oh, you grew up with someone and you fall in love with her and there's dragons and somebody has lost their memories and it's just an all-around great JRPG, classic old school game, and not too long either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I own the second one on the Sega CD, but I haven't gotten around to playing it yet.
I can tell you one thing, it's worth doing at some point.
Okay, yeah, I definitely have to set up the Sega CD and try playing it. But and then there's like a random title on the DS as well that was I guess it's a Lunar game, but people say that it's not good.
Oh, trust me, it's not.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, it's bad.
yeah, I own the game, but I haven't gotten around to playing it yet.
Okay, well, I'll say this. It's probably going to anger you if you once you play it and once you play the other ones and you go to that one. It's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, that's pretty much the consensus. I think everyone pretty much says that, you know, don't let it ruin it. Essentially, they say is they wish it didn't have the Lunar name attached to it.
Well, yeah, like even if it didn't have the Lunar name to it, it's still not like that great of a game because like without going too much into it there, the one main issue I had with it was that whenever you ran in the game, you were losing health, which just doesn't make any sense and keep in mind when you're walking around on the map in that game, it's really slow. So when you feel like you want to run, it just makes it really annoying to deal with and it's just a pain.
So if you're walking, you're okay, but if you run, it takes HP.
Yeah, and like I said, the walking speed in that game is really slow, so it makes you feel like you want to run, but you don't want to use it too much. So, yeah, it's just a really dumb mechanic that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. That sounds like a dumb mechanic.
Yeah, but anyways, as for the good Lunar games, yeah, I can definitely agree that Silver Star Story is like fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I have the PSP version, and I would absolutely buy the Sega CD version or the PS1 version as well.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on now to our number two top games. BioPhoenix, what's your number two game?
Oh man. So my current number two as of right now is that I want to mention an SMT game, also known as Shin Megami Tensei. There's a lot of these, and they're all like have different play styles with them. So it's really hard to pick one. But if there's one that I do want to mention right now, and that's probably because I've beaten it like just recently, and that's Persona 5.
Okay. Um, I own this game. I haven't gotten a chance to play it. As soon as I beat Xenoblade Chronicles, though, that's the game I'm playing.
Oh, dude, it's so good. Like, what can I say? Like, have you played the fourth game or like any of the other Persona games before?
I haven't actually. I own four on the Vita and I own three on the PSP, but I haven't played any Persona games yet. Actually, I know all about them. I know that they're people love the games, but I haven't played them yet.
Alrighty, yes, it's all good. But yeah, if you do play number five, you don't have to worry. You won't get lost within the story because the game series doesn't connect, and like they have like small references here and there, but nothing like plot driven, which is fine. And also, the one thing I love about Persona 5 is that the beginning part is like it's not slow paced at all, because that was one of my issues I had with Persona 4, was that it took like, I don't know, like 12 hours just to get to the first dungeon or some shit, and I'm just like, what, like, wow, like, really? But yeah, anyways, so as for Persona 5 though, like, the beginning part is like a perfect length, and like all the characters are really good. The game is very stylish. The dungeon designs are like amazing and like really awesome looking. It's just a very stylish game, and the story is just really great and has a really unique concept to it. So yeah, and like I mentioned about Pokemon, it is kind of the Shin Megami Tensei games are pretty similar to those, but instead of like catching like an animal inside a ball, you're capturing like a demon into like a card or into like a capsule or whatever, and then you can like fuse these demons and make like newer ones, and you have like newer abilities and weaknesses and advantages and all this kind of crazy stuff. But yeah, I think it's like a more like mature version of Pokemon is what I call it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to play. It was originally gonna be number 4 was gonna be my next game, but then once 5 came out, I was like, oh, I think I want to play 5 first. But what I think I'm gonna do is I want to try playing it on remote play on my Vita.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the fourth game on the Vita is definitely the way to go. Like, the PS2 version is still good, but if you play the Vita version, it's kind of hard to go back to the PS2 one. But, yeah, Persona 4 is still a damn good game, but there's only a couple things about it that I don't like as much compared to, like, when I first played through it. But it's still a very good entry, though, although I personally prefer the characters and story within 5, and I even like a lot of the characters in 3 better than most of the characters in 4. And then Persona 2 just has like a fantastic story.
Yeah, I've checked out Persona 1 and the Persona 2 games, but they just don't seem. The first two don't really seem to appeal to me. And for,
Aw, man, no, it's all good.
well, from what I
Yeah, no,
understand, aren't they like a little different or?
yeah, they're a lot different. Like, it doesn't have like the social link aspect to it. Like, you're not like, it doesn't have like I don't know what you call it, like a dating sim aspect to it. Like, it doesn't have any of that stuff, but it's more like a traditional SMT game, like the mainline series, where like all it is just like you have characters that group up together, and you just gotta like fight off demons and possession and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's all good, dude.
Yeah, and I've checked out the regular SMT series, but none of those games really appeal to me much either. But Persona 3, 4, and 5 definitely I wanna try.
All right, yeah. No, it's all good. But yeah, like I said about Shadow Hearts, these games are kind of also have some like horror aspect, I guess you can say. Like, they're a lot, like, they're really dark, and have a lot of dark stories and stuff. So that's something else I would just like to mention right now.
Now, aren't they more like of a? Well, at least I know 4 is, but aren't they kind of like there are some dark aspects, but aren't they like sort of light in tone too? Like they don't really take themselves too seriously.
Um, the thing is, like, yeah, it does have some dark moments, especially like when like something like big is about to get revealed. But there's some parts of it that are fairly happy. But I wouldn't go out and say that like it doesn't take itself seriously. They're pretty serious games, but just they have moments where it has like a human element to it, where like you have like your good days, your bad days, and it's that kind of thing. If that comparison makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, Persona
But yeah, that's my
5.
number two.
All right, it's a good pick. I'm excited to play that game. So Jim, we'll move on to you. What's your number 2 game?
Okay, my number 2 game goes along with my number 5 game. Being this game is Fallout 3. It was my introduction to the series. And it was something that I just found so enthralling, and a game that I spent probably more than the prescribed hours on. I really like the fact that you can build your character and kind of as best you can in your own image. And this for me was the introduction into decisions in game. Deciding whether you're going to be good or evil. And you touched on this, Matt, with the Knights of the Old Republic game. Your dialogue choices, which if you're talking to somebody, you could either be nice to them, or if they were offering you a quest and they were offering you the in-game currency, which is battle caps, you could extort them and threaten them for more battle caps, and they kind of get scared sometimes and they might attack you outright, or cause the whole thing to turn against you. And I thought that was really cool, where you could pass speech checks to influence the other characters and have them do things for you.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was probably the most fun about that game.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, I don't have any experience with the Fallout series, so I don't know much about 3. But
yeah, 3 is the only one I played.
There's Fallout 3, and then there's Fallout New Vegas, which was actually made by a different company, and then there's Fallout 4. But I mean, in Fallout 3, there's it kind of that they changed from Fallout 4 and New Vegas, which I really was glad that they changed. But Fallout 3, you can basically only support one faction. And I mean, you can turn on them at a couple points in the game, but if you want to continue with the game and keep it going further, it's in your best interest to side with them.
Oh yeah.